right, good morning. We will call this meeting to order. It's 9 a.m. on Tuesday, October 19th. We would ask that folks who are here to stand if they are willing and able for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, the invocation will be given by Pastor Debbie Garrett of Open Door Homeless Resource Center. Thank you, Pastor, for being here.
Heavenly Father, we thank you today. It is a day that we have not seen, and it is only by your grace and mercy that we are here. We thank you, Lord, for our health and strength, and for watching over us last night, allowing us to get up fully clothed and in our right minds. Father, we lift up to you the city of Wichita, and we praise you that the percentages of new deaths for COVID-19 as of Saturday remain at 0%. We pray that everyone that has COVID right now recover in your name, Jesus. Today, we lift up to you Mayor Brandon Whipple and the city council leaders. We pray that they work together with all integrity. Search now their hearts, Lord, and remove all bitterness, anger, and unforgiveness from them so that they may effectively serve our communities. Bless and protect them and their families from all evil. Father, place a hedge of protection around our Police Chief Gordon Ramsay, our police officers, firefighters, and their families as they put their lives on the line to keep our community safe. Now, Lord, help us to remember the less fortunate, the poor, and the homeless. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Madam Clerk.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on October 12th, 2021.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, is there any discussion on the minutes? If there's no discussion on the minutes, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. I received 7 yea votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Proclamations, Child Advocacy Center Heroes Day.
For those who are here to receive the Child Advocacy Center of Heroes Day, please make your way to the front. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas over 2,000 cases of child sexual and physical abuse, missing and abandoned children, internet exploitation, and crimes against children are investigated annually in Sedgwick County. And whereas the Child Advocacy Center of Sedgwick County, a nonprofit organization, has been a leader in service to the community since 2008, with a mission to promote the safety, health, and emotional well-being of abused children and the caregivers by bringing together public, private, and community partners. And whereas the Child Advocacy Center of Sedgwick County provides an environment for children to feel protected, nurtured, and fortified in their ability to heal from trauma with support of well-trained professionals. And whereas the Child Advocacy Center of Sedgwick County remains steadfast in its commitment and vision to lead the community in eliminating the suffering of abused children. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October 29th, 2021 as Child Advocacy Center Heroes Day in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to work together in the protection of our children to ensure that they may grow and thrive in safe, secure, and healthy environments.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be recognized in this manner. We're extremely excited. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary for our Heroes Gala, where we have the opportunity to have speakers come in from nationwide to be able to give us education and information, but also more importantly, to be able to recognize our local heroes. and to be able to focus on the work that they do on a daily basis, working with the children who have experienced abuse. So we're exceptionally honored to be able to look at the folks that are working with children on a daily basis and providing protection for them. And we are gracious for you as a community to continue to surround children and recognize that we are all a part of the solution to be able to protect children. Thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Wichita Asian Festival Day.
if you are here to receive the proclamation for Wichita Asian Festival Day, please make your way to the front. All right, proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas, volunteers of the Wichita Asian Association has selected October 23rd, 2021 to promote awareness of Asian culture and heritage with the residents of Wichita and surrounding communities. And whereas, the Wichita Asian Festival celebrates the diversity of the residents in Wichita with cultural backgrounds from the continent of Asia. And whereas, this is the 40th annual Wichita Asian Festival presented by Spirit Aerosystems and Evergy. And whereas, the Wichita Asian Festival is a free community event organized to foster understanding and appreciation of Asian cultures by the community through culinary and performing arts, along with scholarship pageant. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October 23rd, 2021 as Wichita Asian Festival Day in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to participate in this exciting event at Century 2 Convention Hall in downtown Wichita.
Thank you, Mayor Whipple. Good morning. My name is Chow Wei Lu, President of Wichita Asian Association. With me this morning, we have our Board of Directors, May Buan, Sonali Kulekar, Tabin Azad, and one of our committee members, Mai Dan Tao, Miss Wichita Asian Festival, Deanna Wang, and our liaisons from Wichita Police Department, Sergeant Volker, Sergeant Springhoff, and Officer Kupilan. It is very exciting that we are going to have our annual Wichita Asian Festival this weekend on Saturday. We will have pandemic precautions at this event. Our volunteers and vendors will be wearing masks. Festival goers are encouraged to also wear masks. We will have sanitizing crews wiping down the eating area regularly. The number of vendors have been reduced to facilitate social distancing. Even so, we have a variety of Asian culture, food, and craft vendors. 17 food booths and 5 craft booths, and 9 Asian countries are represented. The stage program will have 11 wonderful performances with music and dances representing 8 different Asian countries. You also don't want to miss the second half of the program, which is the Miss Wichita Asian Festival Scholarship Pageant. We have 7 talented ladies representing their countries. They will showcasing their beautiful cultural attires and talent performances. The beloved annual festival is full of Asian culture and is free admission. Yes, free. I want to thank the people who make this free event possible. They are all our volunteers, including our planning committee, and all our sponsors, especially our presenting sponsor, Evergy and Spirit Aero Systems. See you at the 40th Wichita Asian Festival this Saturday, October 23rd, 5 to 9 p.m. at Century 2. Thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Down Syndrome Awareness Month.
if you are here to receive the proclamation for Down Syndrome Awareness Month, please make your way to the front. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas Down syndrome continues to be the leading chromosomal disorder of infants in the United States, occurring from partial or full replication of the 21st chromosome, resulting in developmental and intellectual challenges. And whereas annually, 1 in 700 babies are born with Down syndrome, averaging nearly 6,000 babies per year in the United States. And whereas individuals with Down syndrome are not limited to societal limits or cognitive constraints, but leading fulfilling, enjoyable, and independent lives while being contributing members of their communities. Whereas Down Syndrome Awareness Month is celebrated worldwide to recognize achievements and strides of these members of our society. During this month, supporters collaborate to bring awareness and continue efforts towards advancement in medicine, technology, education, and many other areas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Down Syndrome Awareness Month in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to learn, engage, and recognize these community members throughout the month.
Good morning. I'm Natalie Roth. I'm the Executive Director for the Down Syndrome Society of Wichita. We serve the Wichita area along with Hutchinson areas in Garden City and Dodge cities, stretching almost to the Colorado border. We serve nearly over 370 families in those areas, but I'm here today with our participants from our Explore ICT program, which is building independent skills, exploring our community, and contributing to society. So when we leave here, we go contribute through volunteerism, through Meals on Wheels. I have Curtis, Anna, Caitlin, Lanisha, and Martin with me today, who are part of that program. Our organization is here to serve in advocacy, connectivity, development, awareness, and inclusion. We just completed our 18th annual Parade of Stars Down Syndrome Day of Giving, which just gives us the opportunity to mark a new year, to celebrate the accomplishments, and to forge ahead into the new year for the things and the people that we serve. Thank you for your time and attention in recognizing these individuals, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Madam Clerk,
GFOA awards.
today staff is receiving the Distinguished Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, for the 2021 adopted budget. To receive this award, staff must prepare. Yes, please come down if you are. Sorry. Kind of jumped right in there, didn't I? To receive this award, staff must prepare the budget around certain professional criteria developed by the GFOA. This is the 33rd year that the City of Wichita has earned this award and the 9th time that the budget has received special performance measures recognition. The 2021 adopted budget was developed during the most uncertain times of the pandemic from March to July of 2020. I want to thank the staff and their hard work for bringing us through a difficult time to be as stronger now than ever. Please join me in giving them a hand.
Thanks for this award. My name is Elizabeth Goldtree. I'm the budget officer in the finance department, and I'm joined today by Mark Manning, the finance director, and 3 of our budget analysts, Micheline Stokes, Wale Dada, and Zach Kramka. As the mayor said, it was a difficult year, but GFO is a great help to us in navigating the pandemic and also making sure that we adhere to high professional standards in developing a budget, and we anticipate that we'll continue to do that. So thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Public agenda, Paul Tremaine Longer, theme park in Wichita, and Miss Bond with USD 259.
Paul, if you're here, please make your way to the front. Paul Longer. Doesn't appear to be here. Therefore, we'll go to the next speaker. Madam Clerk.
Celeste Reset, lack of proper city oversight, no internal auditor.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Give me a second. Good morning, Mayor Whipple and City Council members. Independent oversight is integral to strong democracy. The City of Wichita would benefit by hiring an internal auditor who reports directly to the City Council. The City of Wichita had an internal auditor, but in 2019, the city manager moved the internal auditor into the housing department to help with workload. This created a problem. A staff member cannot substitute for an internal auditor. An internal auditor is a trained professional tasked with providing independent and objective evaluations of financial and operational business activities. That's from the Institute of Internal Auditors, of which I was a member. Working as a staff member in the housing department destroys that independence and objectivity. Government Auditing Standards, Chapter 3, Ethics, Independence, and Professional Judgment, is clear about threats to an auditor's independence when an internal auditor becomes a staff employee. It impairs independence and creates a structural threat. The internal auditor should also not report to the city manager. The auditing staff should report to you, the City Council. Internal auditors must be safe from pressures for report findings, opinions, and conclusions without fear of reprisal. The city manager should not be able to hire or fire them at will. For the past several years, the city has been in direct violation of the stated administrative regulations and policies. Reestablishing an internal auditor corrects that violation.
There may be confusion about the difference between the internal auditor and the independent auditor who you will be hiring later in the agenda. The internal auditor is an employee of the city. They conduct ongoing everyday testing. They verify the city has strong internal controls and proper oversight. They look for controls and authority, ensure proper contract terms, and review operational business activities, transactions from the city manager himself to you, the city council. The independent auditor is different. They are not an employee of the city. They are a contractor. They are usually hired under a 5-year contract. They do not issue an opinion on the city's internal controls. They do, however, issue a report on the city's annual financial statements and are careful not to express an opinion on the effectiveness of the city's internal control. What do I mean by that? The City of Wichita's comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR for last year, the year ended 2020, contains the independent auditor's report in Schedule H, which stands for Internal Control over Financial Reporting. They state, in planning and performing our audit of the financial statements, we considered the city's internal control over financial reporting as a basis for designing audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances for the purpose of expressing our opinion on the financial statements, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the city's internal control. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the city's internal control. Just in case the reader missed this, the independent auditor goes on to state further, our consideration of internal control was for limited purposes described in the first paragraph of this section and was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. The words but not, do not, and was not are clear statements that the independent auditor could have missed something and does not express an opinion on the strength or effectiveness of the city's internal controls. A new independent auditor contract is being approved today. It is encouraging to see a new CPA firm was selected after years of having the same one. The City of Wichita has total assets of $4 billion and 3,700 employees. We have seen public officials resign because of self-dealing and fraud. I personally found an $18 million error in the 2018 CAFR. Mistakes are made. That's human nature. That's why by the city's own administrative regulations and policy, we should have both independent and internal auditors. Someone needs to be looking over the books every day, and that person needs to be independent and objective. It's time we had an internal audit staff that reports directly to the City Council and produces an annual risk assessment, a 3-year audit plan to help you as the City Council and to benefit Wichita citizens by reestablishing a system of transparency and accountability. I welcome your questions.
See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
William Stout, city Twitter page and professionalism.
Give me just one moment, if you would, please.
Take your time.
Okay. Good morning. You all know me. Bill Stout, District 5. I want to talk to you about 3 words: policy, law, professionalism. Let me begin by saying that my father faithfully served this community for well over 25 years. In fact, 50 if you count the time he was at the Crime Commission. He passed away on October 16th of last year. I requested to speak to all of you the following week, but I was not even allowed to enter this public building because of a policy. Instead, I was sent to Century 2 and sat in a tiny little room with 4 other people, and I was never afforded the opportunity to speak there either. The reason? Policy, not law. I wanted to address you last week regarding the issue I'm about to speak about, but I was told that policy mandates that I ask your permission to speak to you at least a week in advance. Now, I find that interesting because I've read the Constitution and the Kansas Constitution, and I failed to find a clause that says I need your permission to redress my government, and certainly not to ask your permission due to policy. We all know what happened on October 7th. We had a water main break. We had the boil water advisory. We had mass hysteria at convenience stores and retail outlets, even some physical altercations. I sent you all an email. I got some replies. I believe some of the panic could have been lessened if there had been better information disseminated to the public. Instead of using local news, radio, and Twitter, perhaps a cell phone alert would have reached more people. You see, those who work in government are paid for with tax dollars, all levels. They are public servants. And we who pay those taxes expect professionalism, but we didn't get it on October the 7th at 7:15 p.m. when the Wichita City Twitter page had a post that reads as follows. To the numerous people messaging us about being tempted to drink the water just to see, or asking if they can brush their teeth in liquor, beer, wine, etc., we have other health concerns about you. Perhaps you missed the condescending tone. We have other health concerns about you. I find it abhorrent that not only did the mayor retweet this post, but he commented wise words, as you're aware. Public servants have no place ever being snarky or condescending to the public, especially when our concerns are caused by government failing to provide adequate or complete information. It's even more reprehensible that the City of Wichita Twitter page liked a comment in the thread that read, "The condescending nature of the post was necessary and appropriate." Who's in charge of this? Where's the professionalism? It's highly likely that some of the people that were commenting, calling, or asking questions actually had legitimate health concerns. My mother's one of those. She's nearly 80 years old. She lives in a retirement community. They have no stoves in their independent apartments. She has no way to boil water. She called me in a panic when she heard about all of this because she had no bottled water. And she was in fear for herself, her cat, and ironically, how she would brush her teeth. I cringe to think what would have happened if I hadn't answered the phone. Would she have called City Hall? Lord help her, would she had that call answered by the person who posted this snarky tweet? What response should she have expected to receive from the people who get paid in her tax dollars? Now, I know what I would have expected, but I'm not sure it's what she would have gotten. But since policy seems to be so more important than law suddenly, perhaps we should have a review of the policy regarding what gets posted on the Twitter page. In short, we have three words: law, professionalism, and unfortunately, policy. I always cringe when government prefers policy over law. I ask that you do better because we deserve better. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 15.
Has every member had a chance to review the consent agenda? And if so, is there any discussion on the consent agenda? If there's no discussion on the consent agenda, I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda as it's presented.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Board of Bids and Contracts dated October 18th, 2021.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Hannah Lang, Department of Finance here for the Board of Bid recommendations. First engineering bid we have is stormwater drain number 448 and 755 to serve Trinity Point, second edition. Recommendation is Apex Excavating for groups 1 and 2. for a total of $502,900.40. Trailer-mounted air compressor, Evergreen Specialty Services, base bid with an option 1 for a total of $22,100. This is the purchasing procurement website and our current open request for proposals. That's our Board of Bids recommendations. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Is there any discussion or questions for staff? Seeing none, any input from the public? Seeing none, discussion comes back to the bench. Is there any discussion on the item? If there's no discussion on the item, then I will make the recommendation, or excuse me, make the motion to accept staff's recommendation to receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Petitions for public improvements.
Welcome.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item for you this morning is petitions for public improvements. As always, the signatures on all petitions represent 100% of the improvement district and are valid per Kansas statute. The first development is Harbor Isle Commercial Second Edition, north of K96, east of North Meridian in District 6. The project will provide water, sanitary sewer, and paving improvements for a new residential development. Secondly, Corneo Industrial District, which is also in District 6, north of 21st Street, east of Broadway. In June of this year, the City Council approved petitions for water, sewer, and paving improvements to serve this new development, which has now been replatted. The developers submitted revised petitions with new lot configurations and revised budgets. And again, that is for water, sewer, and paving improvements. Staff recommends City Council approve the new and revised petitions and budgets, adopt the amending resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? See none, thank you. Is there input from the public? See none, discussion comes back to the bench. Is there any discussion on the item? See none. With that, I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the new and revised petitions and budgets, adopt the new and amending resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Proposed 2022 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Ben Nelson, Public Works and Utilities. This is our annual outsourced pavement preservation program. We call it the OP3. This is a program that we've had for years and years and years where we use contractors to better preserve our pavement. We have transitioned over the years to a return on investment or ROI-based model using an analytics tool that we refer to as a decision support tool, or a DST, that really helps us preserve pavement and invest in these treatments in a way that gets the most value for what's in the CIP in terms of it available budget. This started back in 2012 where we made this gradual transition, completed some pilot projects to better inform the model. And then made our way through some thermal crack repairs. Those are transverse cracks that span the width of a roadway. We mill out about 4 inches of pavement, put in a reinforcing mesh, and then make it a lot smoother ride. So we got through a lot of that in the early years and have now transitioned to the optimized approach. And what I mean by an optimized approach, I'll spend just a moment explaining that. When we look at what's the cost per square yard, for example, of a preservation treatment or it can be, $1 per square yard or $3 per square yard, sometimes 10 times lower cost than the much more expensive reconstruction or rehabilitation treatments that we used to do in the past. And what we found, obviously, is, you could do several of those preservative treatments over a period of time and keep the roadway in a better condition than if you wait for the pavement condition to gradually degrade and then do a full reconstruction. This year's OP3 has $11.5 million budgeted in the CIP. It's the same level as last year. We would continue the same ROI-based approach on preservation, and we would continue some replacement of crosswalks and some other seal coats and things that I'll get into here in a moment. One measure of, we'll introduce two measures of equity that we look at here. One of them is council district equity. And we've got a chart of how much gets invested in each council district. And the bottom two rows on this chart are the thing that probably make the most sense to look at. What we try to do is proportionally allocate funds based on the proportion of pavement in each district. So, for example, City Council District 1, 17.7% of our city streets are paved streets are in District 1. 17.7% of expenditures are going to be allocated to that district. So it's even across the board with all 6 city council districts. Another measure that we've been looking at in terms of equity was introduced last year. It's a metric of income equity, where we look to see how much is invested in each of our local investment areas here in Wichita. We're just a slightly lower than the proportional pavement, about 0.5%. We were higher by about 1% last year. So over the past 2 years, the ROI model, the DST, has done a pretty good job of getting pavement treatments into the local investment areas. In terms of lane miles that we'll be able to maintain with this, and again, just a reminder, a lane mile, if you think of a 5-lane roadway over 1 mile, that's 5 lane miles. Early on, 2011, 2012, that was before we went to the ROI-based approach. We were doing a lot of mill and overlays and some street reconstruction. Again, the more costly stuff, we did a lot fewer lane miles. Gradually built up 2014 and 15. We did some thermal crack repairs, which are a really low cost per lane mile treated. Did some more of that in 2016 and 17 when we had a temporary 2-year boost of an infusion of $10 million from the sale of the Hyatt. That's why those are so high. And then the last several years, we've been able to identify a lot more crack seal projects, which again, kind of like the thermal cracks, you can spend a little bit and get a whole lot of lane miles maintained. We've mostly made it through most of the thermal or the crack seal candidate projects that we have, so it's a little lower this year because we're transitioning more into the preservative seals and away from the crack seals. We've got a map showing where all the locations are. We'll have this up on the website, and it's also in the program packet as well. And then the next few slides, I'll kind of walk through what the treatments are that are included in the program. We have a relatively small allocation that's for brick crosswalk replacement. A lot of you, when you drive through town, you see these brick crosswalks that may have had bricks pop out, and we're putting cold patch in it. Not the best look, certainly from an aesthetic point of view, but it's also not good for people riding bicycles or using walkers or wheelchairs. So what we've been doing is taking some of those out and replacing them with stamped concrete, which tends to last longer and obviously is a better aesthetic look and is easier for people to utilize. We also have a set of concrete repairs included in this. This is where we remove everything down and rebuild a full concrete panel here and there where we need to in order to mitigate pavement or concrete failures. We also have a small portion of the project funds dedicated to miscellaneous localized repairs where we have some persistent pavement issues or drainage issues that take up a disproportionate amount of in-house resources, and we're able to go in and fix them through this project. We also have a couple of different types of seals that we seal coats that we use. One is a microsurfacing seal. It's a mixture of aggregate, polymer modified emulsion, mineral filler, and it really preserves or binds the pavement better, and it keeps water from getting into the street and extends the life of the street itself. Again, crack seal, this is where we have liquid rubberized asphalt that we seal up cracks. It helps the pavement better adhere to other sections of pavement. Again, keeps water out of the roadway. We also use preservative seals quite a bit. Again, another type of seal coat that helps protect the roadway, keep water from intruding in it and causing further damage. And finally, another one that we've used quite a bit on arterial streets the last few years around town is an ultra-thin bonded asphalt surface. That's where they have an asphalt membrane and a hot mix asphalt that gets applied and has really kind of contributed to a better ride quality as well as providing an extension of life of the street itself. The last three things I would end with are scorecard metrics we've been showing over the last few years. When we did the DST development, in order to determine the right ROI, what we looked at were three main metrics. One was the total value in dollars of the entire paved street network. Another one was the amount of remaining service life, useful life on those pavement lane miles, as well as the number of lane miles of streets that had gone beyond their useful life. In each of these three charts, what you'll see is a red line, a yellow line, and a black line. The red line shows the ROI approach and the funding that's in the CIP. So that's our as-is sort of status quo where we're headed. The yellow shows that ROI approach, but with the old level of funding, and then the black shows the old approach and the old funding. And what you'll see on each of these is we have significant improvement when we've gone to this ROI-based approach, as well as the funding increases that are programmed into the CIP over the next 10 years. So we've more than stabilized our asset value over time, and it's projected to grow quite a bit to where it had been about $550 million before we started this process. And in 15, 16 years later, it should go up by about 50% to $780 million. In terms of the remaining service life across the entire street network, again, major gains here. We were at about 50,000 remaining service life years and should get up to about 70,000 by the by about 2028. And I think of note is the last metric we look at. These are the number of lane miles of streets that have no more remaining service life. These had been declining even with the new ROI approach and the old level of funding, but with what's included in the CIP, this appears to be something that we're going to be able to stabilize to where we don't really have any more streets falling below, over time anyway, the existing number of lane miles that we have that are beyond their useful life. So that's an improvement that we can expect as the funding continues to grow in the CIP. It's the end of the presentation. Again, I think what we're looking for today is approval of the project, initiation of the funds, and we'll proceed with bids so that we can make sure all the work gets done next year. With that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, questions for staff? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Ben, could you go back to slide 24 real quick?
Yes.
So off the top of your head, do you know how much we were spending on maintaining lane miles back in 2011?
I don't know if I have it exactly. We sometimes put slides at the end in case questions come up. Let me look.
I believe it was 4 million.
Was it 4 million? Okay.
That's my recollection.
And now today we're looking at 11.5 million.
Yes.
So in page 6 of the report, one sentence that really stuck out to me was, we're going to touch 364 lane miles in 22, which is more than 5 times the number touched in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos.
Thank you. Aaron Henning, our maintenance engineer, he does all the work back there. He and his staff deserve all the credit for that.
I think that's road conditions is one thing we all get hit on a lot of time from our neighbors. And continuing to see this investment, I know we can't touch all 5,100 lane miles every year, but to see the drastic improvement that we've made since 2011, I hope our residents are noticing it and seeing it. We'll never get completely ahead of it, but taking better care of our infrastructure is what I believe this council is committed to. This is one more example.
Well,
Thank you again.
Councilmember Cirillo.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, Ben. I had noticed in District 3, there's some recent construction projects had been done with that new asphalt layover. Is there any indication how long that lasts as opposed to, does it have a longer life than more traditional ways?
Yeah, yes, it does. More traditional, where some places, especially traditional, the way we used to do it, we'd let the pavement degrade and do what's called a mill and overlay, where you take off of an inch of pavement, put 2 inches on top. It's a lot lower cost way of getting that same amount of pavement life as if we did something like a mill and overlay in, 15 years, 20 years after the pavement got installed. That treatment has proven to be very cost effective in providing at least as much useful life out of a street. I will say this too, we have an inspection, a street inspector basically, who analyzes and assesses the pavement conditions once every 18 months on all 5,100 lane miles. And one of the things that we do every year is we look to see the performance of each of these treatments over time, and we make adjustments to the model accordingly. Actually, we wrapped that up here recently in preparation of this. And so what we like to do is, we know the industry standard of how long of an asset life extension generally cities get out of these kinds of treatments. But we also then like to go get some real world examples over time of when we've put these things down and then inform our model of them. You're welcome.
Ben, can you go to slide 25?
Yes.
So on this map, it seems that anything south of Kellogg, as far as the amount of maintenance going into roads, is pretty noticeably less than that north of Kellogg. And I was particularly in Districts 3 and 4, and I was wondering if you could speak to that.
District 4 in particular is misleading when we look at a map because so much of it also includes the airport, and so there isn't going to be any pavement in there. So it can be a little misleading when we look at just the map itself. District 4 is very large in terms of land area, but not necessarily larger in terms of the proportion of pavement. And District 3 has a lot of microsurfacing right at the very northern edge, right below Kellogg. And that's one of the reasons why we look at this metric here on slide 22, just to make sure we're investing a proportional amount of funds in each city council district. So District 4 has probably about an average amount of pavement because we average from, we span from 14% up to about 18%. And District 4 has 17.6% of the pavement. District 3 has the lowest amount, 14.1%. So District 3 is going to have a little bit fewer lines, if you will, and when looking at the map. And that's not adjusting for the fact that some of the treatments cost more or less than others. But this is why we try to make sure that we're making a proportional investment dollar-wise. But the map, it can be a little bit misleading only because of the size of District 4 somewhat being larger because of the airport, and also District 3 being a little smaller in terms of the amount of pavement in it.
So District 3 has the least amount of paved roads?
Correct.
So if we went 5 times the number of maintenance over the last decade or so, is there any plan to actually pave some of these areas that are in District 3, District 4? I know that where I live in District 3, there's a lot of dirt roads, and frankly, that's going to keep home values down. That's going to keep really opportunity down in that area. And if we have the budget and have been steadily increasing the maintenance of roads in other districts, is there any plan to move forward on trying to pave the roads that are within the city of Wichita?
So this program has not in the past been designed to pave unpaved streets. How those generally have occurred over the years is, you probably heard this, so I apologize if I'm repeating it, but when neighborhoods have been built, special assessments that are paid by the homeowners that are benefiting from the paved roads are the ones who end up paying for it, and it's through special assessments. Decades ago, when some of these neighborhoods went in, there wasn't a requirement to pave streets, and so there were never special assessments, and they never got paved. We've still got a process our engineering division works on every year where we help citizens who want to pave their streets, but it requires a majority of homeowners and those property owners in those areas. But beyond that, we don't have a specific CIP project for it, but that would be a policy discussion at another date, probably, maybe during the CIP.
Councilmember Bluebog.
And I'm looking at the map here, and I get what you're saying about the airport, but if you look in South Wichita, everything on the other side or east of Southwest Boulevard, I mean, there's not a lot of improvement going on. Is that because there are so many dirt roads down there? I'd be curious. I believe we have 100 miles of unpaved roads. Do we know where the majority of those unpaved roads lie in our city?
I don't know offhand where most of them are at. I do know it's about 100 miles. In terms of which district they are, Aaron, do you know? 3 and 4 have the majority of them.
So there's not as much road maintenance going on, not as much pavement preservation because we don't have the pavement down there.
Because you would have a higher proportion of the unpaved roads, yes. In part, the proportional investment has where we have, the proportional investment compared to the paved the amount of pavement, that's been ongoing for years. So if we did look over a 5, 8, 10-year time frame, we should have an even proportion of pavement to the investment in each of these OP3 programs.
So do we take into consideration the age of the roads?
We take, yes, this is all driven by the age and more importantly, the condition of the roadways and which ones make for good candidates based on the technical analysis and that decision support tool for the different types of treatments that we have.
But we really don't have any long-term plan to pave this 100 miles of streets, a lot of them located south of Kellogg. So how do we ever turn the, change the trend on this?
We brought a pretty extensive report to the council previously on options for unpaved roads. More than happy to update that report if you'd like. Obviously, it's a pretty extensive cost, and it's a modification of the process that's been used for pavement in the past. If the city were to participate, that would be a significant difference in what we've done in the past.
I think there's an opportunity to have a discussion about it, and as we look at these infill strategies, maybe, there's something, we could start developing some of this out, we can get some new properties in there or renovate some existing properties and get it to where it's not so cost prohibitive for the neighborhood to want to do it. So.
Right, and that would probably be a little more affordable, but I think the council had a pretty significant discussion regarding the equity of the city paying for unpaved streets. And like I said, I'm more than happy for us to update that report and bring it back to you.
I think it's going to require some outside of the box thinking instead of just doing it the way we continue to do because we're not getting streets done down there.
More than happy.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, and I agree with my colleague where, and thank you, Councilmember Bluebog, for pointing this out, where in perhaps staff, when we do re-enter that discussion, that was a discussion that was before my time, I'm willing to hypothesize that if you were to overlay the areas without streets with level of economic advantages or disadvantages, it would likely show that a lot of people living there just can't afford to pave their roads. And thus we have this somewhat of a circle here of self-fulfilling prophecy where the poor areas wind up having less paved roads, which means that they also, without those roads being paved, don't enjoy the same value increases in their property as other areas do. I know that properties on dirt roads in the core of Wichita are likely worth less. They're more health hazard, breathing in the dust with the air quality. And it's more wear and tear in your vehicle, so that these folks are paying more in vehicle repairs as well. So I think it's an equity issue, and I would love to have this discussion again and to see, as we increase the CIP, see what is our role in ensuring all of Wichita, not just everything north of Kellogg, has the same quality and opportunities as the other areas. With that, Councilmember Bluebog.
Just one more comment. As we look through there and you show the total lane miles of paved roads, I'd like to look at that again, total roads, period.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I don't think it's fair to say District 4, it has a lot more streets than the rest of the districts. It's just a lot more of them are dirt, so I don't think they're showing up on that graph.
Okay, we can include that next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any more questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you, Ben.
You bet.
Any input from the public? Seeing none, bring discussion back to the bench. If there is no further discussion, then I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the 2022 outsourced payment preservation program, adopt the resolution, authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
South Lakes Park improvements.
Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Troy Hauptman, Director of Parks and Recreation. several items for you today. I'll start with South Lakes. A little bit of background. It's a park of about 240 acres, and you have several fields down there to include football and softball fields. With the change of the use of this area, we had a lot of soccer in this area with Sedgwick County Soccer Club, and they moved up to Stryker. So now we have a lot of open fields and a lot of open space that we need to utilize. And so it was proposed that we might look at pickleball. A little bit of background about pickleball. It's gaining a huge amount of popularity here in Wichita. There's a lot of support for adding additional courts. We've added 9 courts over at Riverside, and it's still not enough to meet the demand. I get calls regularly from a lot of pickleball enthusiasts asking for more courts and lighted courts as well. So the idea is to add a pickleplex down at South Lakes. Pickleplex would be an area where we'd have 18, 20 courts, and we would want to have 1 or 2 of these courts to be a championship type of a court where we'd have some seating. We'd want some restrooms, a spectator area, improve some of the parking, and add lighting to not all the courts, but to maybe 6 of these courts so they can continue playing through the evening. Another idea behind this is also having this pickleplex, we can actually entertain a lot of tournaments and leagues. Similar to what we're doing at Stryker, we're bringing folks from other states and other communities to come play here in Wichita, which would have an economic impact as well. So some of the financial considerations and the recommendations. The capital improvement program contains $3 million for South Lakes. We'd like to initiate $300,000 for design at this time, and we would like to initiate the project, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures to move forward. And I stand for any questions.
Is there questions of staff? Seeing none. Is there input from the public? Seeing none, we're going to discussion back to the bench. If there's no further discussion, then the chair recognizes Councilmember Blubog as this resides in District 4.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm very excited about this. I appreciate all the work that Parks did on this, Visit Wichita did on this, the studies they did on this, and I don't know of any tournament, any place we have to play tournament pickleball, so it's pretty exciting to know that we're bringing a lot of people in here to the city, and looking forward to seeing this. And the pickleball community there's a lot of people out there, and had a lot of interest in this and a lot of excitement about it. So I appreciate everything everyone's done on this. So I'd like to make the motion to adopt the resolution and authorize initiation of the project.
Motion is made and seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Thank you, Troy. Madam Clerk.
Chester I. Lewis Reflection Square Park, CMAR selection.
And Troy's back. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Troy Houtman, Director of Parks and Recreation. This next item is in regards to Chester I. Lewis and the project moving forward with a construction manager at risk. A little bit of background. I think we know a lot about this park now, but just in case you didn't know, the park was named after Chester I. Lewis, a very prominent civil rights leader here in Wichita. Had a huge impact on our history. And this park is also going to serve as the entrance plaza for the Kansas Health Center. The park is going to be, actually has increased in size and will provide a really vibrant public space for downtown, not only for the students, but for other folks to use this area, learn a lot about the history of Chester I. Lewis, and we'll be able to do a lot of programming at this site as well. So the construction manager at risk was selected through the RFQ process, and it was a very competitive process that we interviewed several different folks. The CMR process is a collaborative construction method that's using the architect consultants, the artist, and the construction contractor, and of course staff, all together to work together to maximize the funding to really make an impact on this project. McCowan Gordon was selected, and they did a great job on their presentation, and we've gone through contract negotiations with them. The park must be substantially completed for the medical school to be opened on July of 2022. The park construction is roughly $800,000, and the CMAR will allow flexibility in materials and scope to ensure quality while staying within budget and schedule. That's the beauty of using CMAR. So the recommended actions is to approve the contract, authorize the necessary signatures so we can begin moving forward with the project. I stand for any questions.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, is there input from the public? Seeing none, bring discussion back to the bench. There's no further discussion. Then the chair recognizes Vice Mayor Johnson, as this resides in District 1.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move that the City Council approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Councilmember Bluebog. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
LW Clapp Park Master Plan.
Troy, welcome back.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Troy Hauptman, Director of Parks and Recreation. This next item is in regards to LW Clapp Master Plan. We've provided a workshop and gave an overview of it, and you're going to see a little bit more from our consultant. We did a request for proposal for the development of the master plan, and this was with a lot of input from the community to really make a difference in this park. The city received several proposals for the for the consultant, and Confluence was selected. During that time, we moved forward with the community engagement and have a lot of opportunity to get input. And from that, we worked with Confluence on this. And PJ from Confluence is going to go over the master plan again, very similar to what you saw at the workshop, just to give you guys a reminder of what some of the items are in there. And then at the end, he's going to provide a little bit of opportunities that we can do with the funding that's provided in 2022 and 2023. Actually, I'm sorry, 2023 and 2024.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. PJ Novick with Confluence. I'm not going to go in great detail on this because this is what we shared with you all, I think, the end of July, but I'll just kind of run through it just to reacquaint you with the overall master plan. Our design team was ourselves leading the team. GMLV Architects and the Gredman Group were also on our team, as is GSI and Bauman Engineering and Pros Consulting. We had a great deal of public input. Here's 5 different touch points here. The Walk the Park workshop, we had 30 people. A Facebook discussion was done in the summer of 2020. Had a Facebook Live presentation where we had 350 active views and over 192 comments with that. I met with the PED Bike Committee, and then finally the Parks Board presenting the schematic design portion, about 25 people on that. This is just some graphs showing what people were expecting out of spaces. If you start looking at the light blue and the orange, that's where it was either very important or the next level down. So this kind of led to how we started designing the elements in the park, and this gave us some ideas of how people would like to use the park. So with that, the overall plan here, as you can see, we've got the main park entry where it exists today, coming in with a main circulation drive that comes through, cuts over to Oliver. This portion up here is what we call the promenade, and then we have Aviation Hill up at the northern end here. Then we have kind of a play zone that we'll talk about, and then over here we have some active use areas, and then this is more of a neighborhood kind of level of the park, and then parks and then trails throughout. This is an aerial view. This is looking southwest. As you can see, the promenade is that main portion area. Then we've got some lake development. Just another view here. This view is looking southeast. And first we'll talk about just the overall, this is more the neighborhood-based activities. We've got what we would see as a neighborhood playground, probably kind of your typical size of a playground. We've got a small park pavilion that could be rented for, smaller groups, maybe 16, 20 people perhaps, with a restroom. And then we've got a neighborhood dog park, not a large dog park, but the idea that you could come, after the workday or on the weekends with the kids, bring the dog down and have some time with that. Hammock Grove, some of these big existing trees are just gorgeous, being able to utilize that. And then also the disc golf course, 18 holes would run throughout kind of this whole heart of the park, utilizing some of the existing cart paths. Then the promenade, with that, we're coming in at the main entry off Harry. Parking lot of the promenade is really actually anchored by two facilities, actually three. We've got a bistro, which we would see this as a two-story restaurant that would most likely be through private development. Then we come across with a band shell in the center. We've got then farmer's market across the other side here. And then up at the very north, we've got Aviation Hill. So this is running perpendicular to the flight path of the airport. So just the idea, it's a banked seating that you can just watch the planes go by, and then an amphitheater within that too. Here's a view of the aviation, from the Aviation Hill to the promenade, looking southwest. Here's a view of the amphitheater with the terrace seating, and then the farmer's market and the bistro in the background. Picture of the proposed bistro, farmer's market, the promenade, the central gathering space, a very flexible space. The active use area is what we've got here is the idea that we could have some cornhole courts. We have another park pavilion that would include restrooms. This is a little larger, probably about for 24. A natural spray ground. We don't see this as the typical colorful buckets and things. This is more, imagine the water's coming out of rocks. There's some topography. There's water dropping down and really gurgling around. So it's a much more interactive space. A signature playground, something that we get the kids up and out. There's lots of topography change with there. So something that really makes it quite an interesting facility. And this is looking at the prairie overlook. Here's a rendering of the proposed pavilion as that begins to take form with the water play and the playground in the background. As you can see, the renderings don't really kind of display what exactly those is, but it's a very natural feel to it. Then the athletics area on the other side of the park. With that, we've got another pavilion. We've got half basketball courts, pickleball courts, and a pump track. Some views of that active area with that shelter. The overall budget for all four phases, was anticipated to be about $28 million in current dollars. Then we just had the final master plan. We talked about next steps for the implementation of the 23-24. So what we have been working with the Parks and Rec Department is a phase one approach, which would include demolition, grading, and utilities. The entry drive coming in through here, portion of the parking lot, the year-round activity building here, so that's a leasable indoor space. Playground, destination playground, very large playground. The splash pad, what we call watertainment, and then also the existing golf facility would remain some of that parking for use by the disc golf. Was there one? And the proposed budget for that is between $4 and $5 million. Happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor Johnson. Apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. One question. So the green sheet says a splash pad as funding allows. And after going through the aquatics plan discussion, splash pad to me is not the same as a water playground. So will this be on par with the other 6 water playgrounds we have, or will it be just a few fountains?
No, I would say on size-wide it would be, because we visited those. We are proposing taking a different turn, so there's more natural materials. Think of it that there could be rocks, water coming out of rocks, maybe spraying down. Maybe there's a runnel that runs through so the kids could actually sit in there. Or we've got a project that we just opened in Shawnee that they're floating boats through the runnel. That they're making little old paper boats coming down. So it's more interactive. It's more creative with that, and it's also, more importantly, it's something that when the water is not running, it still has some play value for those other 8 months out of the year.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure when I think splash pad now, I don't think the quality of the level that we've set. So if it's the same, that's great, or better.
Further discussion or further questions? See none, thank you.
Go back to the PowerPoint. So again, as PJ had mentioned, we had adopted some funding in the 2022 capital program, which included roughly $250,000, I'm sorry, $2,500,000 in years 2023 and 2024. We would like to begin developing the project, and we would like to first approve the LW Clapp Park Master Plan and the Phase 1 projects. Stand for any questions.
Are there questions of staff? See none, thank you. Is there input from the public? See none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Is there discussion on the item? If there is no further discussion, then the chair recognizes Councilmember Cirillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate that first off, I'm very excited about this master plan. When I'm talking with my constituents and the people of District 3, Clapp Park is always among the top concerns, that we want to make sure that Clapp Park remains a viable and beautiful park and amenity. I just want to reassure everyone that this is just a guide that we will use to help us in future development of the park, and that things could change over the next few years. As I've been telling a lot of people, that Watson Park has turned into a beautiful park that the city of Wichita loves, and that's what we're kind of foreseeing in Clapp Park. So it's not going to take place overnight. It'll be in many years in the making, but I certainly look forward to this master plan and helping Clapp Park turn into a beautiful amenity that we can all love and enjoy for many years. So with that, I would move that the City Council approve the LW Clapp Park Master Plan and the Phase 1 projects.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded, and just for clarification, if things were to change from this plan, it would come back for approval. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. There's many other touch points as well, and we're going to go through starting design, but as we move forward with the construction, that'll come back to council as well. So there's many other touch points that come back to council so we can make sure that we're doing what you guys would like us to do.
Okay. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
McAdams Park, Carl G. Brewer Community Event Center improvements.
Mayor, Council, Troy Houtman, Director of Parks and Recreation. Hopefully for the last time today. It is Parks and Recreation Day, I guess. So the next item is in regards to formerly known as McAdams, but now Carl Brewer Recreation Center. And this is an exciting project that we've been working on the past year. But a little bit of background about McAdams. It was constructed, or the rec center was constructed in 1958. And currently right now, we have a lot of programs there. It's a great resource for the community, but it's lacking some needed infrastructure and technology needs. We did form a committee back in October of 2020, which included a lot of different partners, the Parks and Recreation Department, Public Works, the City Manager's Office, District 259, and some other stakeholders as well that helped us kind of look at a guide at what we would really need for this facility to shine and really serve the public. And so we took an analysis of it, and we found that what was really needed is to really hit the programming of technology, adult services, health and wellness and fitness, and do some more community programming, was to really add to the footprint and expand the recreation center. It's estimated about $8 million, and there's a tentative schedule of what we're looking at. So to initiate the project, bring on an architect to finish the rest of the renderings as well as all the construction documents. That would be completed by the summer of 2022 for the next 9 months. The project bid and contract selection and construction would take another 12 months, so that would be the following summer of 2023. All the finishing touches to the building, which would include the FF&E, art installments, any other technology that needs to be placed into the building, would be an additional month. So we're looking at a total timeline of 22 months to maybe 23 months before we would have the facility back online. It's proposed to be a design, build, delivery type of construction, and the final concept will be returned back to council once we hire an architect to finalize all of the design. So the financial considerations. It is adopted in the 2022 capital improvement project, which includes $10 million. Staff anticipates the project will be offset by contributions from a private donor. This arrangement is expected to include a 0% loan for the next 4 years, which that actually is further than what we're expecting the construction to last. And the staff recommends initiating $8 million at this time for design, construction, and project management of this project. So the recommendations would be to approve the bonding resolution, authorize initiate the project, and authorize the necessary signatures. And I stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, is there input from the public? Seeing none, is there discussion on the item? There's no discussion on the item. Chair recognizes Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that the City Council approve the bonding resolution, authorize initiation of the project, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second. Motion has been made by Vice Mayor Johnson, seconded by the mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Contract for independent audit services.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. Mark Manning with the Department of Finance. Today I want to present to you the Staff Screening and Selection Committee recommendation for the Independent Audit Services Contract, or sometimes we refer to it as the External Auditor. So just in way of background, as you probably know, state statute requires cities to have an annual audit, and this audit has to be performed by a CPA firm. We also do what they call a single audit, which is an audit of our federally funded grant programs. And so because of that, we use federal dollars in the payment of our contract for our external auditor. We also have our pension systems audited, and our external auditor also performs what we call AUPs, or agreed upon procedures, and there are 4 of those. So our current audit contract expires on October 31st of 2021. Although the audit is for the calendar year, there's always a lead time, so that's why we always start the contract in November. So once this contract is approved, our auditor will begin all the lead work, including collecting documents, and also begin work on some of our federal programs, because obviously the federal fiscal year ended a month ago. So that's why the contract runs from October 31st to October 31st. So because of that, we issued an RFP back in July of 2021, and we received 3 responses to that RFP. So we formed a staff screening and selection committee, and the committee interviewed all 3 firms that had submitted proposals. So in this process, it's important that we follow our city procurement policies and procedures, because as I noted previously, we have federal funds involved, but it's also important that we follow best practices. In our world, that means GFOA, so we always look to GFOA best practices. I've listed some of them specific to the audit selection process, and you heard a public speaker comment about this earlier. Multi-year contracts are recommended. That's been our practice for quite some time, and that'll be our recommendation today. Price should not be the sole determining factor in the selection of an external auditor. And the principal factor should be the audit team's ability to perform a quality audit. So again, we'll follow those GFOA recommendations, and we'll follow our procurement policies and practices. And we've done that based on interviews with the three firms and based on a review of the proposals provided by the three firms. The Staff Screening and Selection Committee has recommended Eide Bailey to be our independent auditor in the future. A little brief background on Eide Bailey. They are a top 25 public accounting firm in the United States. In other words, they're a larger accounting firm. They are based in Fargo, North Dakota. Some of the things, I'm going to go over some of the reasons for the recommendation of the Staff Screening and Selection Committee. The committee reviewed the focus and the philosophy and the proposed audit team. As I mentioned, Eide Bailey is a large accounting firm, but they focus on government accounting, and that was very important to the selection committee. That is the largest segment of their business is government accounting, so they devote a lot of their firm resources in that area. Their firm philosophy was appealing. Their philosophy is to work very closely with clients and to proactively identify issues and develop solutions. They have proposed meeting with us quarterly. The accounting world sometimes can appear a little mundane, but believe it or not, there are a lot of things that go on that we need to visit with our external auditor about frequently. ARPA is obviously the most relevant thing now, but not to get too much into the weeds, but we have a lot of GASB issues that we need to implement. So it's important that we have a year-round relationship, and it's important that our external auditor understands that need, and that is part of their firm philosophy. In addition to the audit company, Eide Bailey, it's also important that we have a high comfort level with the actual team that does the work. They typically assemble a team of partners and managers and staff accountants to perform the work on our audit. So we need a comfort level with that team. So we have reviewed the team from Eide Bailey and interviewed the team. They are technically very skilled. They are mature employees. And again, their team is focused on government accounting. The firm expertise was another thing that the selection committee looked at. They have a number of experts in a number of areas, but they specifically identified the experts that would be available to us. And in fact, several of them were on the interview call for us, and that was appealing. They have ARPA experts, they have GASB experts, they have pension fund accounting experts, airport experts, and again, those would be attached to our team, and we specifically know who those people are. GASB, again, not to get too much into the weeds, but we have some GASBs we have to implement in the future. A member of their team actually helps write the implementation standards for GASBs, so it would be beneficial to have him as a member of our team. Eide Bailey believes in continuing education, not just for their staff, but also for their clients, and they have offered to provide us seminars and webinars on topics that we may desire. Their staff does a number of presentations on the national level at conferences. They've offered to provide those presentation materials to us as well. A few final points. The firm is flexible on whether they work remote or in person. We learned a lot of things from the pandemic over the last 2 years. We examined a lot of our business practices, as you know, and we discovered that we don't have to operate the way we've always operated in the past. Specifically, last year, our external audit was performed almost entirely remotely. And so we know that model works. Again, they're flexible. They'll do whatever we have asked for. Incidentally, as I noted, they are based in Fargo, North Dakota. However, travel costs will not be incurred if we choose to have them work in person. We have a fixed price contract. So whether it's totally up to the city, whether we are comfortable with them working in person or whether we prefer for them to work remotely. Another appealing factor was we use Munis. As you know, we implemented Munis a couple years ago. So it was important to us that the actual audit team that would be serving us has experience with other clients that utilize Munis. That'll speed the learning curve. And they did, in fact, identify clients that they work with that utilize Munis. In fact, they've offered to consult with some of their other clients to see if there's add-ons that client has added to Munis that perhaps might be applicable to us. For example, an ARPA module that this particular client had implemented, and they indicated they would try to facilitate giving us that module, which was just kind of an aside, but that was beneficial to us. And finally, the firm did offer very competitive pricing. So last year, our audit fee was somewhere in the neighborhood of $227,000. Again, a portion of that's going to be federally funded. I believe about $40,000 of that was funded with federal dollars. The contract that is proposed with Eide Bailey is $225,000, or just a shade less than what we spent last year. Again, we are recommending a one-year contract with 4 one-year renewals, or basically a 5-year contract. There are annual increases included in this contract, and those are 5%. That is fairly common in this space to have increases of that amount. The final thing I'd point out is the audit contract is included in the 2022 adopted budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional clarification on the recommendation of the Staff Screening and Selection Committee.
Are there any questions for staff? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mark. I'm not trying to foreshadow anything here, but when I read the term, so you said it's a 5-year, 1-year renewals.
Right.
Will those renewals come to the council for vote each year, or will that be a staff decision?
Typically, I think that we provide notification every time we renew a contract, but I don't know that we specifically bring those on new business.
Can the manager confirm for me?
That's my recollection of how we've worked our audit contracts in the past. However, we've, in the past, there's been at least twice where I can think we went past the 5 years and we asked the council for authorization to do that.
Again, I know this is not an easy process, changing audit firms, and it takes some time to get the feet under themselves and get things going. I just would hope for some kind of a checkpoint for the council to know that you're all comfortable with the process and the changeover, rather than just an automatic review. But maybe that's just done with the manager and updates to us.
When we have renewals, they are not automatic. I mean, the intention is that we will have a long-term relationship, and we noted the advantages of that, but you're exactly right. I mean, an annual renewal is not necessarily automatic. We do that typically at the staff level, but I don't see any reason why we wouldn't expand that, particularly on a contract like this.
Further discussion or questions? See none, is there any input from the public? See none, discussion, we'll bring it back to the bench. Is there any discussion on this item? If there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. Have received 7 yea votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Repair or removal of dangerous and unsafe structures.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, Council members. I'm Kaylin Nethercott with Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department. We come before you today with 5 properties for consideration. These were originally reviewed by the Board of Code Standards and Appeals on August 2nd, 2021. All properties were referred to council for further consideration, and no extensions were granted by that board. These properties are located in Districts 1 and 3, respectively. Just as a reminder, citizens that were invited to the public hearing for the Board of Code Standards and Appeals were asked to be prepared to address delinquent property taxes, the premise conditions, their ability to maintain the structure in a secure way, also to provide any general contractor or engineering reports that they'd received to date, and to schedule an interior inspection with MABCD so that we could review the interior of the properties. If their intent was to raise the property themselves, they were asked to provide some proof that a contractor was engaged under a valid building permit, or under a wrecking permit. So the first property today we have under consideration is 1215 North Piatt. And a brief moment, I just want to see if the citizen who owns this property is here. We've made arrangements for a translator to be in place if he is here, so I just need to see if he arrived, and I just didn't see that he did. I would like to thank Ana Lopez, who works with Councilmember Claycomb, for being here this morning. She was willing to translate should the need arise, but it does not look as though this gentleman was able to make it. We did speak with him last Friday to provide detailed instructions about where the meeting was held, where to park, and what to expect from the format. we have a Spanish-speaking member on our staff in our building that was able to help with that. So, 1215 North Piatt, the property has had a housing case open for 11 months. There was no one in attendance to represent the property at the Board of Code Standards and Appeals meeting on August 2nd. This property was placarded in October of 2020. A citation has been issued and the property has been the subject of environmental court. 2 emergency board ups were done in 2021 with total fees assessed in the amount of $348.33. In the past 5 years, there have been 7 reported police incidents at this location. At this time, no repairs have been made, and the premise is secure, although I use that term loosely. The structure has been vacant for an unknown number of years and has been badly damaged by fire. And Vice Mayor Johnson, I know you're going to remind me we need to do these one at a time. So,
And just, could we have Ana ask in Spanish if the person is here?
of course.
If the person was to need a translator, then it would be reasonable to believe that we should.
We had done that while you were away.
No, I heard, but you didn't do it in Spanish, so it was.
Okay.
Si el señor Víctor Acosta se encuentra presente, por favor, venga a la plataforma.
See none. Thank you.
Great catch, Mayor. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. So I drove by. I didn't look inside. That looks pretty bad. Being that the, I guess, taxes are current and everything, did you hear any plan to fix this up or tear it down on their own?
I did not. The conversation we had with him from our office on Friday was simply about the logistics for this meeting, and not specifically about what his intent was.
Okay. Well, to me, that looks like a neighborhood danger. I'm glad that he was in contact with you all. If we went through with approving the demolition of this, would somebody reach out to him and see if there's any plans that he has, I guess, for the property, or let him know that he could still keep the property even though the house is going
Yes,
away?
we can do that from the Reagan Building. We'll notify him of the decision of council, and he'll receive some additional written correspondence as well, but we can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Now, and we do have, thank goodness, contact information for him, which is a luxury sometimes.
Awesome. Well, with that, I would move that the city council close the public hearing, declare the building to be a dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the BBCSA recommended action to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structures.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Next item.
Thank you. Our next property is 1352 North Terrace. This property's had an open housing case for 1 year and 4 months. No one attended the August 2nd BCSA meeting to represent the property. A UCC has been issued and the property has been the subject of environmental court. The police department has requested MABCD assistance with this property, and in the last 5 years, there have been 3 reported police incidents at this location. 2020 property taxes are delinquent in the amount of $639.41. The property was mowed and abated in 2021, resulting in additional special assessments in the amount of $936.46. The property has been vacant for an unknown number of years and was placarded in May of 2020. The structure is unsecured with an open window on the second floor, and as you've seen from the photos, the structure has vinyl siding with holes, badly worn roof, and wood rot at numerous windowsills and frames. We have had contact with the owner of this property by phone, and I believe he might be with us today to answer any questions you might have.
is the owner of this property here, and if so, would they like to speak? Welcome.
Oh, okay. My name is Corey. I am the owner of this property here, 1352 North Terrace.
We appreciate you being here. Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. So with this, do you have any plans for bringing this property up to code, and how long do you think that'll take?
Yes, I do. Currently, I'm working a couple of jobs, so I do home remodeling. This was one of the properties that I purchased initially for myself, and it probably is still going to be a personal property, or my primary resident. I didn't have a real timeline. I didn't know a lot of this stuff was going on with the property. It was a family property. As I moved back from out of town, I inquired about it, made a deal, and actually purchased it, unknowing that all this stuff was going on. So, but I do have plans to get it back together. The condition of the property inside, I know we were talking about an inspection or something like that. I'm okay with that. It's still pretty decent on the inside. It's a pretty strong, strong structured house. It's just the outside wasn't attended to. I'm guessing they had cut the yard a few times. I didn't know nothing about that, but yeah, it's easy work for me to get it back together. It shouldn't take, I would say, between 6 months and 8 months, something like that, just to get it looking nice, at least on the outside.
Okay. And you have on this property delinquent taxes 639.41 and a special assessment of 926.46. What would be a time frame you think you'd be able to bring those up to, or just pay that?
Yeah, I don't know about the 9. This is my first time actually hearing about the 939. The delinquent taxes would be on me. I wouldn't get into the actual forms because I didn't have an address to them to send the paperwork to or anything like that. But if I can get 60 days even to pay that off fully.
Okay. Special assessments happen when
the
former owner didn't keep the lot cut, or
right.
It might have been something we needed to pick up. Staff will go out and do that, and that's where the special assessment comes from.
Right. I understand. I didn't know how long it's been, going on for it to get to that, price that high.
Okay. I thought somebody else.
Further questions? See none. We thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. So, Kaylin, with him being here, would you feel comfortable going forward with communication with him and maybe giving a potential extension on this?
Yes.
So he said 6 to 8 months.
I would think some significant progress could be made in the first 90 days with a check-in. We should be able to communicate with him and obtain interior inspections, any engineering reports that might be necessary on this one, whatever council's comfortable with.
Okay. Well, holiday season's coming up, so maybe we'll do 4 months. I like the idea of a check-in, though, just to make sure. And just to make sure I wrote down the right amount, you mentioned taxes and special assessment. You said 60 days?
As far as the taxes, I know I can do taxes. Like, what was the amount of the
936.46.
26.
I'm sorry,
926.46.
with that, maybe, I wouldn't say in full, but how much would you, want towards that 926?
So I tend to prefer everything be paid off going forward.
Okay. I have to make it work, or 90 days?
Okay.
90 days.
Vice Mayor, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I was trying to count 90 days. Make sure I have the right time frame. All right, well, I'm happy to make a motion on this. I would move, well, first, Jennifer, would I still declare this dangerous and unsafe if we're given an extension?
You could do that and then stay the enforcement, or you could just make no motion and allow staff to work with the owner. What staff's recommendation might be.
Okay. Well, I'll skip that part. I would move that the city council grant an extension of time to repair the structure and that it be contingent upon all taxes and special assessments being made up to date as of January 19th, 2022. That the structure has been secured as of October 19th, 2021 and will continue to be kept secured, and that the premises are mold and free of debris as of October 19th, 2021 and will be so maintained during the renovation.
I will second the motion. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the vote. I've received 6 yea votes and 1 nay vote. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk. Excuse me, Madam Clerk. Back to staff.
Our third property today is 1452 North Lorraine Avenue. We have a lot of pictures on this one. This property's had an open housing case for 1 year and 8 months. No one was present to represent the property at the August meeting of the Board of Code Standards and Appeals. A UCC has been issued. The property has been the subject of environmental court. The property was placarded in February 2021 and again in April of 2021. The property taxes are delinquent from 2018 through 2020 in the amount of $3,351.97. Since 2018, the property has been abated and mowed multiple times, as well as boarded up, for total assessments during that period of $2,769.32. The premise conditions are not maintained. The property has been vacant for at least 4 years. The concrete block foundation is missing blocks, the roof has holes and is sagging, and the front porch is in danger of collapsing. The attached carport is also in very poor condition.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Was the property owner, have you had any contact with them?
None.
Okay. Well, given the condition of that property, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move that the city council close the public hearing, declare the building to be a dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the BBCSA recommended actions to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of any structures.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. I've received 7 yea votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk. Back to staff.
Well, I am pleased to say that once again, we are going to end on a positive note. And Councilmember Cirillo, these are both positive notes in your district. So, I'm happy to report that, as you'll see from the first pictures here, this is where we started with a dilapidated manufactured home, and this is what it looks like now. So this property has been removed by owner. There's a bit of remaining debris and backfill work, things of that nature to do, but we'll handle that internally as a nuisance case and as a closeout for the wrecking permit. So there's no need for additional action from council at this time. Yay.
Councilmember Frye.
Kaylin, thank you. Were the taxes and assessments paid as well?
Most likely not, because this was removed by owner, so there
Okay.
wouldn't have been any requirement for them to do that in order to remove it.
So that stays outstanding debt to it?
It does.
Okay, thank you.
It does. And I don't believe this one has changed hands. That was an owner demo, so it hasn't, it didn't happen because it changed hands in some way. So,
Next one.
next one. 2445 South Ida. A bit of history on this one. This has been a particularly problematic property for us. The primary structure has burned once. The accessory structures, one of them burned also. We have had the owners engaged on this, and I'm pleased to report that while it's not perfect, this is what the site looks like today. We have some additional work to do with following up on them on removing the debris from the demolition and the remaining outbuildings. Again, that will prevent future problems in this area in the future. But the good news is it was resolved by the owner. And so we'll continue to work with him and provide whatever support we can in helping them get that finished up. So, another one that there's no need for council action.
Excellent. Is there any questions for staff on this, on those last two? Councilmember Frye?
Question that I had on the previous one, taxes and assessments, are those still outstanding as well?
Yes, they are. I believe their intent was to demo it and then possibly look at selling the property. They were motivated by not having any more debt load assessed against it, and that spurred them to action a little quicker because we were able to give them a fairly strong estimate on what it would cost if the city had to do it. So.
All right.
I think that's it for me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your report. Madam Clerk,
Councilmember appointments and comments.
start off with appointments. Are there appointments that people wish to make? I will make mine. I'm appointing Jack Brown as the Bicycle Pedestrian Board Representative and Shauna Steffens as the Transit Board Representative to the Wichita Sustainability Integration Board. Is there any more appointments? If there are no more appointments, then I'll make a motion to accept these two appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, those appointments pass. We are back on member comments. The comments for the good of the group. If there are none, then I will make a motion that the City Council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive information on a personal injury claim for damages pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for legal consultation with city attorney, which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship for potential litigation.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
The executive-
And legal advice? On the second.
I'm sorry.
Oh, on the motion. For potential litigation and for the purpose of legal advice.
Yes, an executive session is required to protect the attorney-client privilege and the public interest. Oh, and legal advice. Potential litigation and legal advice. Thank you. And it's for 10 minutes, so let's, executive session will start at 10:55 and go till 11:05, in which we will meet back here back in here to either close out the meeting or extend the time. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Vice Mayor Johnson. Clerk will open the roll. I'm receiving 7 yea votes. In 5 minutes, we will be in executive session. Thank you.